And then when did the idea of the studio come into? And when did you realize it? Because you said it was a nice thing to have.
Yeah.
When did you realize I'm actually going to do this?
The day that I took it.
Really? That's awesome. So here I am with Minna Mustapää. How are you, Minna?
Hi, I'm wonderful. What a sunny day and walking with you. What could be better?
Beautiful day. Okay, tell me, where are we right now?
So right now we are just entering the neighborhood of Ullanlinna. We've got the seaside behind our backs. And this is my favorite part of Helsinki because it reminds me of Central Europe where I grew up. And I just love the old architecture, and there's great little boutiques and cafes and restaurants, and I just love that whole neighborhood vibe.
So where in Europe does it remind you of?
I guess France and Luxembourg is where I spent my childhood from 6 to 13. To me, there's something magical about it. It's like this fairy tale land, or this this old romance of this beautiful, slower pace of life.
Can you tell me about your business?
Yes. So Breathe is opening quite close to where we're walking right now. And the purpose of Breathe is really to give ourselves the space and the time and the moment to just let go.
Yeah.
So take a breath. As Western people, we're so heavy in our minds.
Yes.
Constantly, and that's what we get taught from a very young age. So we haven't been trained to just shut off our monkey mind and just sit still.
Yes.
That's when our anxiety goes to the peak, and those voices and those thoughts just get louder, and can be very uncomfortable, or then we're just sitting there, we're bored, and we feel like we're not really doing anything.
Yes.
So it's about learning, how do we get to that point of when we sit there, we are surrendering to the stillness, we're feeling this immense joy of inner peace, we're connecting with our heart, we get a chance to connect with our soul and with oneness, and we get to take off the veil of illusion that we're somehow separate from each other and from nature and from the world, and we can just embrace that feeling of everything is okay and I am unconditional love.
Yeah.
And then when we're sitting there in that energy, it's no longer boring or painful or our mind is racing. It's just like oh.
When most people try it for the first time, I know exactly how it is. Like, you start fidgeting and simply put, you start get bored. We can't sit still.
Yeah.
So how do you get over that first hump?
See, I think here is the number one key trick for anything in life is we need a mentor. We need a coach. If we haven't been to a place, we need somebody to guide us there. Like, if there's a cabin in the woods that we've never been to, we can spend our entire life circling the woods and not get to the cabin. But if somebody's been to the cabin and they can take us by our hand and they can walk us there and show us the route, we get to the cabin. Once you've been led to that place, then you can also find it again. And then you can do it yourself and you can practice it. And of course, if you want something consistently, you need to choose it persistently.
Oh, I think we can all find it accidentally. You can accidentally run into that cabin in the woods. Yeah. But if you don't want to rely on an accident happening, if you want to choose and be deliberate about it, then you have to listen to somebody who's done it.
And also what I think of, when it happens by accident, which is amazing and can be beautiful when it happens, but then we don't know the route. We're like, all right, I'm at this cabin, but I don't know really how I got here. So if we leave the cabin, we're like, all right, let's have that accident happen again.
Yes,
if we build
you're reducing the chances.
There's a system. If you can follow the formula of these steps that have been built out, like in yoga, there's sequence to get you to Savasana.
I love that, because where most people are reluctant to go through steps. We don't have the patience, especially because we know the result. We can see it, so we just want to jump straight to it.
One of the biggest problems that I kind of see or feel in that is that we also apply that to our own emotions. So we just want to be happy. Instantly. We don't want to have a look at what is causing me pain. We don't want to face anything.
Yes.
So we shut everything down. We're like, I'm happy, but it's not how it works. So the tension builds up in our bodies, and we just get living in this like denying of our own experience and of our own feelings, and getting back to really the why. Why do we want that? Like, what is it about that? Because often we're looking to get that $1 million or that business or that relationship only so that we can feel something, so that we can feel that we're worthy, that we are enough. Like, if I have that, then this. And that's the thing that we're chasing. But through personal development and mindfulness, we can go, hey, I'm already enough. I'm already worthy. I have the capacity to influence my state regardless of external factors. The reason why I'm so passionate about this is because for years I was stuck in this. When I have this, then I can be happy. Then I am worthy. Then I can receive love.
Yes.
And it's bullshit. But we get so, caught up in this because that's what marketing tells us. That's what we are fed, so that we become very good consumers and very good workers. Down this street, because now we're kind of leaving Ullanlinna and we're going towards Punavuori.
Okay.
Which is another beautiful neighborhood. I mean, the neighborhood pockets in Helsinki are quite small.
Yeah. Do you live here?
No, I live in Vantaa, which is like way out.
I live in Vantaa.
Really? So here's a great gelato bar. You can buy boxes to take home, like of different. You can choose what flavors you want, and they give you a little box. The best gelato in Helsinki. We don't have a lot of gelato here. It's not like Rome, but there's a little bit of it. My friend's parents, who are, I guess, the parents are also my dear friends.
Yeah.
They have a beautiful yoga studio on one of the streets, and they do morning Ashtanga yoga sessions. So you can go there anytime between 6 and 9, and you have your own mat and your own practice, and they just guide you if you need any help, and they have a delicious healthy breakfast there. So that's a great way.
And we're talking about yoga, and we're going for the loudest part of town.
But that's the great thing about true kind of when it gets to like the meditation. Also good to stay present within what is happening around us. Not just
we gotta be mindful of getting hit by cars.
But the greatest practice is not when everything is silent, to have the ability.
Oh, great point.
But when the chaos is around us,
great point.
How do we still stay grounded and peaceful and happy?
That's the best time to practice.
Exactly. And we do the practice. I mean, if we have the amazing joy and privilege to be able to do the practice in the quiet times of our lives, but we so often forget to do the practice when everything's good, because we think, oh, I don't need that. I don't need meditation. I don't need personal development. I'm good. Life is good. But when shit hits the fan, as it always does at some point in our lives, I don't think anybody gets to not have that happen. Then we need the practice, and if we haven't built it up, it's much more difficult in those times.
Meditate, especially when it doesn't seem like the perfect spot to meditate in.
Exactly, because then that's the perfect practice for life. Because really, how do we stay grounded? How do we stay committed to our sense of worth and our sense of purpose? And how do we love someone when they're pissing us off?
Yeah.
That's the practice.
Oh, so great. That's so great.
How do we forgive ourselves when we're not living up to our ridiculous expectations?
So good.
And here is one of my favorite spots. Brooklyn Cafe. I am generally gluten-free, but their bagels are so amazing that I will occasionally treat myself to one. And they do have gluten-free cupcakes. So they have it's a very, very cozy cafe. They've got these like kind of old school furniture and just a nice vibe. For me, I'm sure there's people who will disagree and be maybe even slightly offended, but for me, it's the only place in Helsinki where I feel this like really nice neighborhood vibe of like, all right, there's cafes, there's this, there's that, there's people, there's energy, there's happenings. I guess it's like a little bit of London or a little bit of that big city feel here. Just that Helsinki's not a big city. Chiswick. Yeah. A bit of Bayswater. Exactly. Well, Bayswater. I love Bayswater, so maybe that's the thing that it reminds me a little bit. And then here's the last spot in Punavuori that I wanted to show is the Green Hippo Cafe, which is one of my favorite spots for breakfast or for lunch. They have really nice healthy bowls and shots and smoothies and smoothie bowls and just nice.
So how did you end up choosing this spot to open your, can I call it a meditation studio? How do you call it?
I call it a meditation and personal development studio.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you end up choosing this spot for your meditation and personal development studio?
It's actually quite a funny story.
Oh, tell. We love funny stories.
So a few weeks ago, I was sick for 1 week. I was in bed. And that end of having a flu where, your mind starts to be awake, but your body still kind of like wants to take it easy?
Sure.
Like you're kind of on the brink of getting better. Yeah, so I was in bed. I'd been in bed for over a week. I was getting really bored of being in bed. So I started working on my laptop. But I gave myself permission to just work on the fun stuff or whatever kind of daydream stuff. And I started looking at spaces for a really long time. I've wanted to have a space where people could come and there would be tea and coffee and you could have mindful conversations, and then I could do any kind of workshops I wanted at any point without having to go through the where do I rent a space, blah, blah, blah. Just always be like, hey, we're having this, come in. And I had a look around everything around Vantaa and Helsinki, and at the end of that day, I wrote down specs of like, well, what would the space need to be?
Yeah.
Like, what would the minimum space that I would love to have now? What does it look like? And the next morning, I refreshed the page, and it was there.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, well, there's no harm.
That's a sign.
That is a sign. So, of course, I had to click to go view it and went there the next day and took it immediately.
Wow. So originally you had a coaching business, a personal coaching.
Yeah, so for the past 4 years, I would say I was building my own startup, but on this, simultaneously I was also working very heavily on myself.
Yeah.
Because, business is also a lot about our mindset.
That's where we have to begin.
Yes.
It makes no sense to start somewhere else when you haven't fixed yourself yet.
Exactly, yeah. So, I started that 5.5 years ago, working on myself. And then pretty quickly, I found other entrepreneurs who were, looking to have mindset coaching and guided visualizations and stuff like that. And then I very casually then worked with people who have been a really nice match. And on my Instagram page, Breathe Helsinki, there's a couple of really beautiful testimonials.
Okay.
From people that I've had the honor of guiding.
Okay, so you mindset coaching, and then when did the idea of the studio come into?
Well,
and when did you realize it? Because you said it was a nice thing to have.
Yeah.
When did you realize I'm actually going to do this?
The day that I took it.
Really? That's awesome. So before that day,
sorry about saying it. It was like, yeah, I just jumped into it. I leaped into it. Like, I for some reason, I had this belief that it's going to be a lot harder. Like somehow that I would have to have a lot of savings, or I would need something, I had that, like those beliefs that we get stuck in. But I started looking around on Sunday, just casually. I was viewing it from the point of like, well, what would it
just
take to one day? Yeah, just fun. And then when it was there the next morning, I had to go see it.
Wow.
And when I saw it, I had to take it. I am doing it. I am jumping in. I am leaping into
Otherwise,
making it.
we can end up waiting forever. If we're waiting for the perfect time.
There is no such thing.
No.
So when it comes, leap. And I was like, well, yeah. I mean, I've been here. I mean,
so, and also, you're saying that the night before, it didn't exist. It wasn't there.
No.
And the next morning when you refresh the page.
It was there.
Wow.
So, and I was there, and I also started looking at the perfect time because that spot would have gone like I was the first. I was.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. So this is Johannes kirkko, or Johannes's church. I think it's one of the most beautiful churches in Helsinki. So I love the red brick. It's so warm. It gives this nice warmth in the autumn and winter time. So a lot of churches, like we have the big white church, which is majestic and beautiful, but I love the warmth of this one.
Totally see what you mean.
And now we're like heading back towards Ullanlinna on this little street where there's, like the umbrella shop and these kind of gems that we don't really have anymore.
An umbrella shop, a whole shop just selling umbrellas. That is so cool.
Yeah, we don't have these anymore. And then, there's the butler dry cleaners and a little where you can get all kinds of nice kitchenware. It's a world where there's still not a mall, and I love that.
Yeah, totally. Like used bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. To give a backstory to understanding my breakthrough is that when I was 7 years old, I was at home with my sister and she suddenly fell against the bookcase and started shaking on the floor. She couldn't talk. And
how old was she?
She was 11.
Okay.
And it turns out she had a brain stroke.
Wow.
And she got paralyzed completely from the right hand side. And I had turned 7. So the world kind of turned upside down and all of my family's focus went into my sister.
Yeah.
Understandably.
You saw it happen?
I saw it happen. Yeah, I was alone at home with her at the time. My mom was just in the neighborhood and I called her up, said, Mary's shaking on the floor, she can't talk, can you come please? She was there in like 30 seconds.
Oh.
We got the ambulance and went to the hospital and she had a full recovery.
Okay.
This has the happiest
good.
ending. She had a full recovery thanks to acupuncture and she became the salsa captain of Oxford University and she went on to do a PhD in neuroregeneration after injury.
Go Mira!
Exactly, yes. But in all this turmoil, what was happening, this was before the time that we understood about, needing therapy after traumatic events in our lives.
Yeah.
This happened in the 90s. So up until I was 19, and I went to homeopathy, which is a form of also therapy. Nobody ever asked me, how did that make you feel?
Yeah.
Because it was always the focus on my sister, which, of course, understandably, but what my little 7-year-old subconscious brain, what the story that I wrote was, my emotions don't matter. I don't matter. My family doesn't love me. And that became my kind of core belief. That became my reality. I was convinced.
Wow.
And no matter what
but
my mom...
it's awesome that you recognized it. How long did it take you to recognize that?
Well, it was my first personal development training where we spent 3 days on this concept of something happens and we create a story out of it.
Yes,
and it's the story that we tell ourselves.
And you just live with that story forever unless somebody points it out to you.
There's a difference between telling somebody, oh, there's your blind spot.
Yes.
Yeah, but we don't accept, if somebody says, you're doing this wrong, we don't accept it. But there's a difference between just pointing it out to somebody, which oftentimes just creates frustration, anger, disagreement.
Oh, they just ignore it.
Exactly. But when you guide someone to have that discovery themselves.
Exactly.
So when you guide them through a set of personal development questions, and this is something where you know, it needs to be a coach. It can't be your loved one. Like we cannot coach people who we are so
Oh my
ingrained
God, I
in.
love this. It's so true.
So then
true.
when we have those questions and we do these change patterns, and that person can have that, see it themselves without somebody having to point it out to them, that's when we can have the discovery. That's when we can feel it in our body.
So Minna, I know we're really close to your place, so do you want to quickly show me? Can I get a quick preview, sneak peek?
Of the
Of the
space?
studio?
Yes, absolutely. I'm
Okay.
excited to share it with you.
You live in Vantaa,
Yeah.
which is maybe an hour commute, so you're not worried about that. You're gonna be doing this every trip. You're gonna be doing this trip every day.
Well, Mondays I'm closed, so Mondays I'm giving myself a day off.
Okay.
Just for, you know, self-care is important, so I want to, you know, live what I teach.
Yeah.
So for sure. But it's actually a really nice, easy commute because it's a direct train to the central railway station, about half an hour.
Yep.
And then there's 3 different trams that come here, number 1, number 3, and number 10, if you're in Helsinki and you want to come. And it's just a few stops in the tram. And it's such a beautiful neighborhood, so I don't mind. I love this space.
I was going to say, do you appreciate it more because you live out of town?
I think so. But also, I am thinking of getting a studio somewhere here, so I don't have to commute. Studio apartment, yeah. Just somewhere where I can crash during the week. I want to show you the courtyard before we go in.
Okay.
So this is one of the things that made me fall in love with the space. Is the cutest courtyard with beautiful flowers and these old-fashioned chairs. So this is where I envision myself having my morning coffee and chats and drinks and all that kind of stuff. Here we go. Welcome to Breathe.
So when are you gonna open?
The 1st of November.
1st of November, which is only
A couple of weeks away, 3 weeks away.
Yeah.
The great thing about opening a personal development and meditation space is that we actually don't need much, because
It's all about minimalism.
exactly, and it's all about just having a clear space where we can move and breathe and come together and connect with ourselves and with each other.
Cool. Well, Minna, thank you so much for showing me around the neighborhood and
You're so
showing me the
welcome.
space. I look forward to coming and doing a session with you when you open.
I'm looking forward to that too. Thank you so much. It's been such a joy.